It was big enough that there were 8 people. It was the 4 of us and then another family of 4. I mean, that's natty. But just really a very unique experience. I'll show you a little.
Yeah.
We could, I mean, if we could get, so what'll likely happen is it's which.
See, this is funny because
It's like-
years ago, yeah.
Okay, we're live and we're good and.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do that, and she found it. It's part of the Navajo Nation reservation, and it's like a, a native, just a, they basically have like a trailer.
Vision one and.
And you
Oh.
go meet him, and the guy takes you with SUV, and it was a young Navajo kid who was really very knowledgeable about all the plants and all the animal life.
And really.
The geology, yeah, it was weird.
Yep.
Like the hierarchies here and there, like. And light.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hey, John.
Yeah, I think you got pictures that, they call it the large, like the large is in a globe. Because there's a tree that fell into it that got wet. And it's open around it, and
Yep.
water has eroded.
They were supposed to.
What's your sweater? Oh my
Got it, got it.
Right, so. They.
Rain into them all the time.
So my hope is.
Yes. Camera that's looking at.
Right there. I believe. No, inside and behind me.
What do you want, the camera? Oh, it's in the corner, yeah.
It's not too big place.
It's confusing me.
I call the order for State of Petoskey Public Art Commission for April 9, 2027. Could, Ms. Beck, City Clerk, please call roll.
Boyer,
Here.
Zach is absent. Murphy, Kehoe,
Present.
Sean Nolf,
Here.
Klinglesmith,
Here.
Tweeten,
Here.
Phelps Rusha is absent. McWaters
Here.
and Van Wagner is absent. So you guys.
Seven, we do it. Next is approval of the minutes from March 25th, 2026, regular special meetings minutes. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, or possible motion? That's one motion.
I'll motion to accept.
Have a second? A motion from Chief Kehoe, second from
Oh, they're all right here. Sorry.
what- let's go to Amy Tweeden seconds it. Let's go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Kehoe,
Yes.
Tweeten,
Yes.
Boyer,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sean Nolf.
I wasn't here, so.
You still-
You can still vote. Klinglesmith,
Yes.
McWaters.
Yes.
More of an acceptance that it's, you accepted as going into the minutes. Or into the public record. Next is public comment, and that's the opportunity for anybody in the public that wishes to speak to the commission. They speak to them, not to the public. Does anybody wish to speak?
No one's
Nobody
online.
online, nobody online. You wish to speak to us?
No.
Oh, here comes Maggie.
Oh, wow.
Please note in the records that Margaret Van Wagner walked in and is present. If you wish to speak, you're more than welcome to speak.
Oh, sure. I'll just make a quick comment. Angela Morris with the Tree Art Center. And I was here more so that I get an update. I haven't been to the last two meetings. And now that Sheila's retired from Crooked Tree, Ed Boyer was on their board. He's retired as well. Just looking if Crooked Tree can get re-engaged with the commission. He did hire a new visual arts director, who I think would be a great addition. And so just here to get an update and just wanted to share that Crooked Tree is here and happy to support however we can.
Thank you. Next is old business review and approval of Brad's sculpture bench location. Quite a few of you took the tours, walked down, saw where we were looking at it. Are there any comments or questions or something you want to look at? I thought going across from the waterfalls would be the best. I know we've looked farther down. Parking is an issue going farther down. as well as the walking issue with people, possibly disabilities, as well as the, just kind of condenses it to, tunnel, or 4x4 project, the horse, dog horse, the bench, waterfall, and then invite you to walk up the stairs for our Sunset Park. I felt that going a little farther down, if we're gonna be working, Parks Director Kendall has talked about the Arboretum area. I felt working into that as a more major project, including art as it goes down into there would be better, but other people have other ideas. Nobody had spoke up, that was, but if you have ideas of wanting to move it someplace else, down the waterfront here, whatever.
Well, and I had, sent, just because it has been a long time since we did that, I had just sent like Google Street View to Sarah, just of kind of those two locations that I think.
I have up here, I pull them up on my computer, not this computer, I'll take 2 seconds. Okay,
I think it's your 1 and 2.
yep, share just so it goes out.
So that was one location, that was more across from the lime kiln pond. There's that existing bench there.
That's beyond the bathrooms.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right, and so it was kind of given that the animals on the bench are facing one way and they have like binoculars and doesn't he have like a I Spy thing? If you look, if the bench were located facing Lime Hill, then people could still get a shot of, you know, with the bench of the sunset behind them. And but then the animals are actually looking at something too. They're not just like using binoculars, look at absolutely nothing. So that's one location, and then the other area, and when you say across from the waterfall, I wasn't sure if you were talking on the south side or the north side of the street.
North side.
Water side.
North side. The water,
Over
not
here.
waterfall.
So the animals would be facing the waterfall, that they were
Right,
that way.
Yeah. You would be sitting next to them with the water, with the sunset and the lake behind you, which I didn't think it was a big deal that.
Yeah.
It just.
I like that spot. There's a nice little, that birch tree.
It's like a little rise there.
Yeah.
Well, how far off of the sidewalk would we be putting it?
Were you down there with us when we did the tour?
Well, but my understanding is it was going to be right off the sidewalk. I don't know if it was, is it gonna be up towards the water more?
It's roughly
It
roughly 15 feet.
It really should be, you know, we're gonna need to make an accessible pathway. An approach to wherever we put it.
My thought was that it would be kind of parallel with the trees. And next to that little maple, I guess it is, next to the birches on the left.
So closer to the water,
Yes.
closer to the water.
Yep.
So there'd be a path and that would lead up to them.
Are you talking concrete walk? Okay. I just think that's a great like photo op for everybody, and you can probably, depending on the time of the year, frame it with the sun in the background. And we could even use it for a promo packet or a promo picture for the city and superimpose the city's symbol over the sun or something like that. I don't know. I think that's visually a good spot.
I like that spot.
I like that spot too. It's also more accessible to people that maybe have a hard time getting around. It'd be right there.
A lot of people turn around at the,
Right, at the
Bathrooms.
bathroom.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Do we make a motion?
Yes. Motion,
I second.
Ed, second from Mary B. Any other discussion?
Kind of,
So the-
do you have a understanding of where?
Yeah. What's the motion?
Yeah, I don't necessarily, wanna put it, have a sidewalk across that green space. I mean, I think we still wanna hug it up, not hug it up, but we've got a pretty symmetrical walk along that sidewalk. A few years ago, we added some concrete pads with some benches that can accommodate, wheelchair, so I'd like this to kind of conform to that visual standard. Versus having a sidewalk that goes 40 feet across, so we can get it close to the water. I think if we can find a spot where, part of the intent of this was to have a, kind of a sunset scene where we can get that facing west. Realize there are gonna be cars that are like this bump out here. We need to find a spot to put that where it isn't.
Right.
Where a car's not gonna be in front of it.
That wouldn't be if it's facing north and if you're standing towards the sidewalk, taking a picture of the bench over the water is what they're saying.
If it was too close to the sidewalk, I don't know that you could step back far enough.
And I listened to the board, I listened to this board and we walked down there, and they were standing there, Augie was here, you were there. And there were people standing there and saying, gosh, this is a great spot with the water right behind us. I don't know, I think the board is stating what they want and expects.
Well, this is an artistic committee too. So maybe we need to, make some adjustments for the pathway because we think that artistically that's a good spot.
Question. Off the cuff, Kendall, what do you think, as far as like a pathway, what would it be, like the composition or what do you think would be in line congruent with, what you've already done?
Something that would go off of the sidewalk. I think they're probably maybe 6 by 12 pad is what I think we have now.
Is it in it like bumped off the sidewalk? Is that what happens? Or is there a?
Yeah, I wish that we pull up GIS at all.
Or even a Google aerial view.
Yeah, or the
We
area.
did those though, right? That
We
probably-
just did those a few years ago.
Probably would, the
Oh.
imaging we have, but.
It might not.
I don't see a problem with putting small pathways, cement pathway.
Join this way.
15, 20 feet at the most is all it is.
Give me
Up to
a
that
second,
little
Kendall.
knoll what these people are talking about and putting the bench there. Otherwise, you might as well just put the bench someplace else by the river if you're not gonna access the water itself and the sunset in that area. Mr. Boyer.
So there are benches out there currently, correct?
Mhm.
Do they all have paths going to them?
No.
Maybe we start without a path and see if
Right.
it's necessary later?
Well, we need to be accessible. That's one of the factors of us
Okay.
trying to
Okay.
get people from point A to point B is make sure that everybody can. So let me.
I was
Um,
just gonna say, Kendall, that I think that, I get what you're saying about, the consistency. But I think having it really near the sidewalk sort of undermines the sort of aesthetic experience of it. People will be standing in the street to photograph the bench at the distance to get the composition they want. And I think that, the most aesthetically pleasing place is where people are suggesting that it's near, but it's about balancing, your concerns about the path. I mean, is it, when you're talking about the sort of symmetry of it, what are the downsides of, other than the expense of having a path that would approach the bench? Like, what's the downside of that?
Well, it would depend how long the path, we don't have any pathways
Mhm.
on this whole entire stretch.
Yeah.
Except for to the waterfall stairs.
On the south side,
Stair tower.
to the stair tower.
So you do have pathways.
Well, on the other side, yes. On the north side, we don't.
Right.
Right.
Well, then we need one.
I don't know how that now. Okay for the south, but not the north, but I don't know.
Well, all I'm saying is we're gonna have to provide we're gonna have to provide a pathway to wherever this bench is going to be.
Right.
And yes, it will be congested. That's a incredibly popular place on any given day down there. You know, so the area that we looked at before, kind of past the restrooms, I think provided us with a little bit more, freedom. We have benches that are there currently that are not accessible that we could replace, but this is a committee decision. This isn't my decision. We'll adjust if this committee feels like somewhere down, across from the waterfall is the appropriate spot, then.
That's what the motion was.
Well, there wasn't really any detail other than a motion and a second, so I do want that clarified, please, for the minutes.
So do it,
Perhaps we table this and we all walk down there, this meeting or the next meeting, and go stand where we want and where that spot is, if that will relieve stress.
We're not gonna get it out between now and then anyway, so we certainly have time to go down.
Yeah, I
there
was
and,
just, we just show from this.
You know, this is likely gonna be a late May, early June install anyway, when we start pouring concrete, so we decide that that's the location, but we
Two, but
want to dial in more specifically, it isn't gonna put the installation of the bench off at all.
Is there going to be, and I don't know if we talked about this, and if we did, forgive me, but is it gonna be like on a landing pad, like a cement pad? Or is it gonna be like anchors, like, you know,
Cement pad.
It'll be on a cement pad.
okay,
For safety.
well, yeah, for accessibility too, I guess.
Well, also even like mowing and stuff.
I just wanted to mention one other reason, other than Kendall's concerns about having it in that location closer to the water, is that having a pathway to it announces it as a piece of art rather than just a replacement bench, like it sort of
Yeah.
celebrates it a little bit more. But I don't thoroughly understand the concern about forging a path if it's the only one, so.
I think too,
Why
that
don't you
is
talk
like
about
the widest area along the shore. If you look at that, like, and if that path towards the waterfall, it doesn't totally throw things off. It doesn't throw things off to have a path to the bench there. Like it would make sense just visually or from a walkable.
Symmetrically kind of.
Yeah.
Well,
sort of
let's,
the path
Was virtually
meander.
right across from the other path, as I recall.
so let's, at our next meeting,
We walk down.
we can walk, I mean, we can, I guess, agree to this location and we can dial it in as to
How it works.
exactly where it's gonna go.
I won't be here in May, I'll be gone, but I go with the group that that's where it ought to be.
Now you're at this point.
Yeah, whatever's appropriate, I don't know, I mean,
Well,
I understand, should the motion be more specific as for the location and things like
I
that?
think you have to watch it
Okay.
and get it.
I'll withdraw it, yeah.
And I think I want you guys to know, so.
I think there's a
We-
consensus.
You pull, wish to withdraw your, do you wish to
Oh, hurry.
withdraw a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we move on and we'll cut this, Sarah, or Shane, will you please put this on for this next meeting?
we may. We're gonna wanna take advantage of our contractor when he's available. There's a possibility that we may wanna jump on this quicker at our next meeting.
Okay, do you have your calendar books out for people? We can still this there.
You guys
I don't know what,
walk down.
we've all been there. before.
Today?
I don't know that we need to put our feet back there.
After the
Are
meeting?
you willing to walk back down there today?
We just, when we adjourn, just
Mhm.
walk down there and,
But then you're gonna come in back here.
oh.
We
they
have
have
to
them.
vote on it, so.
Do you, I mean, how specific to the motion do we have to be? I mean, if we say that it's gonna go
Well,
and
it sounds like you want it by the sidewalk or at the far end, then we're stating we.
Yeah, we understand that. We're moving from that. Let's keep
Okay.
this moving forward.
Well, just see there, I mean, where the sidewalk goes to the waterfall, then there's a crossing.
Yeah.
So if you could then continue that sidewalk somewhere.
The other side. Fine. That's the question.
Cause that also doesn't show the.
That's the question is if we're talking closer to the sidewalk, or we're talking it from a picture view of it being far enough where you get the sense of water behind you.
So that's the verge, right?
Yeah,
So that's that little rise, and then this is I think a maple.
yep.
Yeah, and it's blurry because it's 2025 and the 2022.
And it might not
version
be
is-
exactly right across from the pathway to the waterfall. It might not be.
Yeah, it would
exact.
come-
It was, I think it was
Yeah.
10 feet.
Ish. But I like how the other path is a little bit
Meanders.
curved. Yeah, like a straight path
Are
wouldn't
we
necessarily
talking
make
about here,
sense.
This area or over here? This, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a knoll in there. But you pointed out there was a knoll there.
Yeah,
I
a little
remember
rise
you walked
at that
over to
birch
the knoll
on
and
this
said,
side.
look at this knoll, this would be great for it, so. So. Any, Shane, your suggestions on how you?
I don't think we need to go look at it again. I think we understand what
Yeah.
where you're trying to go here.
Yeah, we got a view of it now anyway.
I think the shape of the path is the question, just like if it's
I
gonna be
think
curved,
location is-
yeah.
But ultimately location.
So it's
Right.
curved like the one by the water.
So,
You trust if we make a motion that Pete, Mary Beth would go down and meet with him or somebody like that to get
Mhm.
this finalized. You can do that if you wish. You Wish to bring the motion back up.
I'm happy to go to the location with anybody
Yeah.
to.
Cause that way, if we could do it really soon,
or
after this
you
meeting.
could take a video, so one person could just go down and take video of like a couple of, the whole general area too.
Mhm.
Put stakes on the ground, basically.
Yeah, right, sure, mark it out.
I don't know where this is going, but.
It sounds like the group is comfortable, as Shane said, that the location and the knoll. And so it's just a matter of having a few people that
Yeah.
people feel comfortable representing the group to
Yeah.
go stake it out and then.
Everybody can go down and stake it out if they want. I
Yeah.
mean, go down and stake it out the next day, 2 days, and you'll see. I don't know. You have a motion?
Yes, how specific? Are we just,
With a wandering trail to the knoll.
but is it fair
Grassy knoll.
I mean, I know where
Yeah.
we want it.
to be determined is too vague, isn't it?
Well, we know that it's on across from the waterfall, so the two options were other side of the waterfall, other side of the bath, so we know where you want it now.
On the knoll.
But I think one of the people who is,
Yeah, yeah.
helps to mark it out.
Okay. And we'll ask that maybe after the meeting, get a few people, work with Kendall on the location and Shane. How's that?
So my recommendation, however, whoever's doing a motion in second should say the location, meaning by the waterfall, the north side, if that's what you guys are choosing, and then whatever language to this knoll, and then with, a determination by staff and Mary B or something. or
But if we-
members or something. I just need a location for the minute
Mhm.
pending installation with staff or something.
Yeah,
So,
with members participating.
But yeah,
That's.
it can't be a quorum, remember, so gotta be less than 5 people or less.
Is that what you said?
I couldn't have said it any better.
You want to have a second again?
Well,
I'll second
I
that.
don't hear you say. I hear you.
Any other discussion? I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
I'm not ready right at the moment for a second.
So is the shape of the pathway gonna be determined also by us?
To the north.
Probably.
Sounds like,
North
I
side.
don't know,
We'll get together.
Meandering,
sounds like we talked to the type of path, is that
not straight.
Aesthetically pleasing.
aesthetically pleasing pathway?
Could kind of mirror that one,
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was
down
thinking
and
It would be shorter, but
Down, it would be down a little bit from there, right?
Yeah.
Just down a little bit, yeah. Yeah, down toward the marina a little bit.
That what it's called? I mean, I don't have a clear motion and this isn't my committee to create it. So I have a motion by Boyer, the location of the bench across from the waterfall on the north side / water side. And then I don't know what else to say beyond that.
Between the maple and the birch.
Maple.
I think it's a maple.
The
I
mar-
think,
On the knoll.
Yeah, or.
So
exact placement to be determined as far as like how many feet from each tree or whatever, or how, you know. I don't know.
I think it'll be clear when we're there.
Bring some yellow tape.
Either on the knoll or near the knoll, just
No poles.
give a little bit of wiggle room.
So what's going in the minutes? And this is your motion, you just didn't say it, so Boyer moved the location of the bench to install across from the waterfall on the north side / water side between the maple tree and birch tree on the knoll to be finalized with staff and a few members of the commission.
Facing the water.
Bench facing the water?
Correct.
No,
No.
it's
No.
facing the waterfall.
So that's your animals, you're sitting next to the animals. The
When you get your
water's
picture
behind
taken,
you,
yeah.
And the animals,
And the sunset are
if
behind.
the animals are looking, they're just looking next to you, looking at the
The waterfall.
waterfall.
Okay, so your back is toward the sunset when you're sitting on the bench?
Yes.
So.
I know, that's an interesting,
But others,
yeah.
Otherwise, you'd have to stand in the water to photograph your people on the bench with the waterfall behind.
It's a photo op.
Okay.
So it's everything I read with the inclusion of and bench facing the waterfall.
on the knoll.
Do we have to put anything about the meandering path?
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
It's not very
Yeah.
high, the snow is very flat. It's just enough to get you a little.
Boost.
To set up the sculpture elevated a little.
So I have a motion, I have a second. Discussion. I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Boyer,
Yes.
Waters,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes,
Kehoe,
Yes.
Sean Nolf, Klingel-Smith,
Yes.
Tweeten,
Yes.
and Van Wagner.
Yes.
let's review and discuss draft mural policy and guidelines.
Oh.
So this,
Is it true if you need paper copies, does anybody not have a computer to print off stuff on this? If you don't have that ability, get with Sarah and to correct that, if people on the boards, they do get hard copies if they wish. You mail them.
Like to not do that, but we can certainly do that.
I'm-
Improve.
yeah,
I would-
Mind to do
Yeah,
that.
but if there's anybody here that can't do that,
So I will say that
accessibility.
mailing won't get to you in
We
time. I
wouldn't
mean,
mail.
packets aren't usually done till the Monday or lately Tuesday before the Thursday, so I would not count on the mail.
Okay.
Happy to print them, but it would be at the accountability of the commissioners to pick them up at City Hall
Right.
between the hours of 8 and 5. And then you would know when I sent the email that the packets were done, that they would be available to be picked up at City Hall, but.
It's more of accessibility to those people that do not have the ability to, if we get somebody on this board that is has the inability to use a computer or doesn't have those skills or whatever, then we at least make it accessible to them.
So I guess I need to know and hear right now how many packets we need to be printing for people. One?
Okay, so this draft.
So that they would be able, she could pick them up at the office
Mhm.
before the meeting, usually what, Thursday, Friday.
Usually
No.
something's out like 2-3 days before, right?
No, it would be, they would be picking it up on a Tuesday before
Tuesday.
Wednesday.
city. So you could go and pick them up here.
When,
Okay.
I'm,
When you see that are you on email when you get the emails?
mhm.
So when you see that email go out, that means the packet is ready, so it could be picked up that day.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
And the emails come from me, the link to the packet.
Okay,
Tuesday, Wednesday, walk in, secretary on the left and just ask. For Sarah and Sarah may drop it off there for you. With your name on it.
drop it off where?
It'll just be at the front counter downstairs.
Yeah.
On the left,
Okay,
Either way, either one.
one of those people will know where it is. So I'm gonna turn this over to Sheila. City of Petoskey mural policy and guidelines.
Yes, so this new draft is integrated comments from the last meeting. Well, first of all, the first draft came from content that Amy shared, Sarah shared, and research that I did about mural policies around the country. And then we had some comments last meeting, and then also we got the mural ordinance. And so this version is, you know, kind of integrates comments in this new document. There is a part that you probably, I don't know if you saw the highlight, but there is a piece that comes from the ordinance that I think that we had a question about, and if, you know, that's, I don't know where we want to start, if you want to just start
You
it.
start where, you wanna start walking through the whole thing,
No, why don't we-
basically,
Why don't we walk it through and then we can kind of go.
we have time.
So, you know, starts out with why we have mural policy and guidelines to encourage murals, to establish guidelines, criteria, submission and approval processes. And also, so anyway, basically why we have a mural policy. And then there's just a statement from the Petoskey Public Art Policy about the council's commitment to public art. It's just basically quotes from the public art policy about why we want to encourage public art. And then a definition of a mural, which is both, you know, it's kind of an amalgam of the, you know, the definition from the ordinance and, you know, other definitions. And then there's a note about vintage. So basically a mural doesn't have commercial messaging. It doesn't identify or advertise a business, product, service. It may be abstract, representational, or narrative. It doesn't say anything about the the sort of visual quality style of the mural. And it can only have text if it's integral to the artistic composition and then used for promotional purposes. Then there's a bit about vintage signage, that is considered a mural. Like if somebody wants to restore some of the vintage signage, even though that's primarily text, it's no longer advocating, you know, promoting a business. And so it becomes a kind of a mural under our purview.
Can you give me an example of that? Like,
That normal college.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Or the one on Mitchell, they got rehab.
did get rehabbed, yeah. So there's that, and then the next part goes down, it's just a definition of a sign, which is also kind of taken from the ordinance. You know, just signs are regulated under the municipal sign ordinance, that's not our purview. So the mural policy is under the purview of the Public Arts Commission. Proposed murals for building exteriors within public view, including businesses, and residential properties, are reviewed by the City of Petoskey Art Commission following the mural policies and guidelines, and then that's outlined. But then it's anything that this commission approves must go to City Council for final approval.
So I have a question on that.
Yeah.
Because the ordinance, which is the law,
Yeah.
as this is the final body.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why the policy
Uh-huh.
would say it then goes to council.
Yeah, it would not go to council.
Wouldn't go to council. Okay, so we'll take that out then.
And then I'm just gonna chime in. Oh, go ahead. Do you want to go through the whole thing and then?
Chime in.
Well, it's regarding what Amy had mentioned, because Amy is correct where this body approves the murals. However, in the ordinance, what does go to council, at least that's what Shane and I, when reading the ordinance, that the mural policy and guidelines that you guys get to that final draft and the recommendation of what the application fee will be,
Mhm.
those two items go to council
Okay,
and get approval.
okay.
So the policy and guidelines gets approved by council and then the fee. And then beyond that, everything is the purview of this body.
Okay, great. Speaking of the fees, so, well, I guess we'll get to that. Okay, all right, great, I'll update that. Let's see, policy, all building exteriors within public view are subject to the terms of the mural policy. Just interrupt, is Amy, like, if you have any questions, as I'm just going through it, since you don't have a copy in front of you, I'm just gonna go through it. Individuals and businesses interested in hosting a mural on an exterior wall within public view must follow the mural application and submission process and requirements. Murals must not extend beyond the dimensions of the wall or obscure architectural features such as doors or windows. I think that there was a bit missing. I think in the original, the last version I had must not extend beyond 4 inches beyond the wall. So if someone was doing a relief, like a ceramic relief, like you got roast and toast with those, cups and saucers and such. So how do you feel about the length, the distance that a mural could protrude from the wall?
Guess it depends if the building's right up against right of way or not, cause then if someone might knock it, but if it was a building that was set back, it probably wouldn't be a problem.
So I can add a note just about, will be considered on a case-by-case basis, the relief element, the dimensions of the relief. Okay.
Like you see that concern, if you're walking down the street, because then you've got stuff hanging out of all of it. As beautiful as it could be, it is a safety issue.
Okay.
Right, it's more likely to get damaged and potentially vandalized. Stick out.
Or tripping
Plowing
hazard.
to clean the streets off, no plow, sidewalk, just take.
Might want to consider too, like, if you had a piece of glass sticking out, that even just a little bit might be, if it's somewhere that people are walking by, that might be dangerous.
So there is a place to consider that, like, this is just kind of the overarching policy of just a statement, but then when you all get into reviewing a particular submission, they're gonna be detailed about the materials and processes they're using, and you would catch whether there was gonna be a
Okay.
piece of glass.
Okay.
So some of it is like, this is sort of like if the mural involves relief, I guess I already had that. Oh, the murals must not extend beyond the dimensions. I see. The first one was more like, if you have the wall, you're not adding plywood to extend the wall. That was the first one. The second one was the 4 inches one, which if the mural involves relief, dimensional elements must not protrude more than 4 inches from the wall, but I'll adjust that to reflect what you contributed, Amy, from there. Okay. But are you okay with the first part, that murals must not extend beyond dimensions of the wall? I've seen murals that like go up and then at the top, they'll build out like a little extension, maybe it's a flower or something that extends beyond the wall. and
Maybe
has
at a
shape.
certain height,
So is there, at a certain height, it could extend beyond?
like if it's not obstructing
You.
a view, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Does it come into place, Shane, on our ordinance, on the height of the building? We're limited on the height of the building, correct? In the facade, we have control on the height of the facade as well.
I guess I'm not following your question.
If somebody wants to build a mural like above the level of the facade, like sometimes you see murals that have, cutout shapes that extend beyond the borders of a wall. So is there a limitation about how high somebody from their facade could go up or out?
Maybe as long as it doesn't exceed the height restrictions, for the city ordinance as far as the building,
That out and.
maybe. I don't know.
I didn't see it.
Really wouldn't be part of the structure.
True.
It's like those little men on top of all the buildings that were temporary or.
Yeah, the man
Those
in the city.
I love those.
are probably taller than the.
Yeah,
buildings
that's
now,
probably true.
But I don't know that building height regulations would be, but I mean, this is, we say you can do it. How do you then tell someone, well, we say you can do it, but we don't like what you're doing, so you can't, so. If we're going to say you cannot do it, then you can't do it. If we're gonna allow it to some degree, we have to be very specific. Yeah.
Well, I think that, you know, we don't have a rubric yet for evaluating the murals and we've had rubrics in the past and we really wanted to use them, but I mean, if we have a rubric, there can be an aesthetic reason that's okay for this, you know, body to decide, like just visually it obstructs the view. And that's why we're not accepting that. Scale it back and we'll reconsider it or whatever. So I think,
So could you just say, elements protruding the wall will be evaluated on a case by case basis?
same with the protrusion
Yeah.
out from the wall.
That's good.
That sounds good. Okay, I'll update that. And then, these were the two elements from the ordinance that, you know, if you wanted to change them, they would have to go to city council, I think, because it was part of the original ordinance. Murals shall not be placed on the primary facade of the structure. When the structure has two primary facades at the intersection of two public streets, murals shall not be placed on either facade that's from the existing ordinance. So I think if that's something you're comfortable with.
It makes it sound like you can never have a mural to me.
It has to be hidden from view.
Yeah, where are you supposed to put
Gotta be
it?
on an alley.
And I don't love it at all.
Well, I think that there's a process and maybe, you know.
Could be a case by case basis for that too, as far as primary, you know.
I can't understand how that, like, what
Where would
would,
you put the mural?
yeah, that's what my question,
It's.
that's what it was.
Don't front street, I mean, I think the, and I wasn't here when this ordinance was, but I know when it was discussed previously, there was a real concern about having murals on very visible street fronting facades.
Is that because they just didn't want murals, period? Or
I think
like
it was
what,
just
what would be that?
because, you know, I don't know why.
'Cause it seems
exactly, but
quite
It was just because you could. There just wasn't good enough direction
Okay.
for the murals.
You know?
And maybe with the policy, the thought will be different, but I don't know. I would think you'd wanna start small and then down the road, if you wanna add it to the building facades. That might be a better route instead of going back and saying, well, actually, we want them on all the walls facing streets. That might not.
Maybe
fly.
not all the walls, but maybe so that it's a possibility.
Yeah.
Like,
But you can't say it's good and you could get all, or you could get one, or you could get none. So you have to be. You understand if you say yes.
Yeah.
Then every building could have it on their front. The whole street.
I don't see that
Oh.
ever happening.
But you have to play the devil's advocate here and say.
But what would be
if
so
it's a
wrong?
right to do, then you have to say.
Yeah.
It's a right to do, and that's why, like, what happened was, in the past was. This city, the council, the planning, the DMV didn't have any mural policy at all.
uh-huh.
And so it was, until we have this, we're not gonna allow anything.
Right,
That's where it got to the point where it is.
right.
And it
So-
was a concern because people were going to put on Pennsylvania Park, we're going to put a war scene on Minor Hardware's wall facing the park. So people were concerned about the blood or the cannons, the soldiers, and there was a real concern about that. So rather than deal with it, because we have the ordinance policy on murals. The council shut it down, totally.
So, you know, back to the, I would not go at this point changing the ordinance. I would say keep it the way it is, see if we're starting to get mural applications. There are plenty of alley walls that it could happen. It can happen, you know, on other things. And if it becomes too restrictive and the commission wants to come back and revisit it then, then do it, but otherwise, we're going to be several months more out for anyone to do a mural anymore.
I agree with Amy, is let's take baby steps here. Let's go slow.
Is
You
there a
know,
baby
let's-
step that we could take that's a little bit more than no? Because it just feels like no, and I've already had conversations with businesses, people that would be interested, but they look at that and they're already like, well, we can't do
Because
it.
if you're gonna invest in it, they want it to be seen, so if you say not the primary entrance, cause even if you have two frontages, one's gonna be normal. You know, where your address, your storefront is, the other's not, so can we just leave it at storefront? Or building front?
You mean if it's
That's
on a
prohibited?
corner that you
Yeah,
couldn't do
that you
the
could do
street
the-
facing facade, but you could do the side facade? but not the
Right,
side
so at
street
least we're
side.
giving them a little leeway.
If, it could be a tremendous piece of art.
I know.
It could be a bank key or something like that.
I don't think we have to hide the murals, don't think that's the point of this.
I agree.
I'm just saying, I think it's gonna delay anything, and the people that I've talked to that wanna do murals, it's on an alley fronting facades.
Which is fine, cause that's fine anyway, but I
Yeah.
think this just
Yeah.
allows for somebody to, you know, apply for a
Explore.
permit who might want to do something more visible.
Those are the spots that need beautifying the most, really.
Yes.
Those alleyways.
The alleys are right.
But we're not talking about right now on the alleys. We're
No, I
gonna
know.
move from that to.
I think the concern is having them on facades may change the character of the city. I mean, I'm just gonna say, living in Philadelphia, there were so many murals. Some neighborhoods didn't want murals because they said, well, it's the neighborhoods that are being uplifted that need like it was marked as a bad neighborhood that needed to be revised or something, you know, it's like, I mean, that's different in a big city, but I'm just saying, I think part of the concern of having it on facades and prominent places is it eventually gonna change the character of the city. In the review criteria further on, it says the proposed design should promote or enhance the character of the city. It, let's see, it must exhibit aesthetic competence and technical skills and visually enhance the location. So the difference between having it in policy and having it in the review criteria, I mean, we haven't gotten to that or approved that yet, but I'm just saying saying it's okay and then having the option to review it and say, no, that's way too much. That puts a lot of power in the body of in the composition of this, you know, group, which will continue to change over the years. So it's like, is there enough trust to protect, you know, the character of the city through which murals get chosen, or is it better to just have it in the policy and, you know, for a few years, as you suggested, and then, you know, if people come up with proposals, then it's like, okay, maybe it's time to loosen it. I don't, you know,
It gives
I
hope.
see both, I see a reason to do it either way.
Yeah, I think that if, like Mary B said, you know, if you kind of loosen it a little bit, just to give people hope, to demonstrate that we're not the old guard anymore. We're moving forward. And we, you know, yeah, the old was pretty restrictive, almost punitively, to where now we're at least open to looking at, come to us and show us what you've got.
Well, plus, like you said, we have the right to review things anyway.
Does this go to city council for a final when it's all said and done, this guidelines and
Yes.
policies? They may weigh in on this as well.
Mhm.
Of course.
But you can't have it in your policy if it's not in the ordinance, so this involves amending the ordinance, so.
Right,
Back to, I'm just letting you
Yeah,
know.
right.
This is a more timely process.
yeah.
Than just moving forward.
Like how timely, just curious, like, cause I'm curious.
We're looking 3-4 months just to get that ordinance amended, and then we have to approve this policy as well.
So it's down the road.
Cause just curious, like if we don't do it, then it's further down the road.
Right.
If we don't make any change, I mean, and not that, I do see both sides, but just curious,
I do
like,
too.
I'm very curious about the idea of opening it a bit, cause it does feel
Restrictive.
restrictive.
But it's hard to open. It's like the
know.
can of worms, because once you open it, then every worm has the right to come out. You can't pick one worm and say, we like this,
Right.
we like that, but once you open it, everybody, as Amy is shaking her head, then you're gonna have to give everybody the right to basically change possibly the look of downtown.
Right.
Just
Yep.
say,
That's where we earn our keep.
Mhm.
We are the position that makes it, and we can open it up.
but you're also not elected.
No, we're not, but
It,
as a
those are the
commissioner,
people, that get elected into the public to make the ultimate decision. With their line for reelection, for citizens calling and complaining, you guys will not get any calls on it.
Is it feasible to say that it would go through us and one more? Like either city council or the downtown board, or is that too much finagling
Well,
around?
one thing that's in here that I think we could do is, you know, say this commission decides they wanna deny a mural. Who does that person appeal to? And I think it would be city council,
City council.
which I think that, but I don't know,
Well, what I have so far as that is if it's denied, that we give a rationale, they get a summary of the rationale, like it extends too much, or the imagery is partisan, or it doesn't enhance the cities for these reasons or whatever. And they can revise it, and then they can revise it and resubmit for consideration. But then I guess if they get denied twice, then, you know.
That goes objective, subjective, what is your criteria for saying the character of the city does not?
It's
go with
art,
the
it's
character
all
of the city?
subjective.
Yeah, it is so subjective.
Everything's subjective, I mean.
Right,
Yeah.
I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Reality.
we'll know it when we see it though. We will, as a committee, we'll know it. Somebody comes to us with a rendering.
Well, I was just want to move on to the second point from the ordinance that I included in the policy here. Is murals shall only be placed on unimproved concrete block or painted brick facades. Murals shall not be painted on unpainted brick surfaces, facades with ornate and historic architectural features and elements. So that was a move to try to protect the historic
historic
character.
preservation.
So I mean, that seems like that, you know, that seems like that would help with the first point, that you would all, you know, you wouldn't, if somebody submitted a proposal on an unpainted brick surface, you just would say, well, you can't, you know, we're not gonna discuss and consider it because, you know, already you can't do that, so.
That give you more credence to that. I know you're into the history, wanna push.
Yeah,
the
no, I
historic,
think that's
so
an important, yeah.
will that help for giving you assurance that not every building is gonna be painted in?
I'm not concerned that every building is, but I do, if I think of the building at the corner of Petoskey and Mitchell, and it's a big blank wall, and I think a lot of people think a mural would be great. What I think would be great is windows that turn it into an actual facade. Once you get a mural up there, changing it becomes an issue unto itself. So, I mean, if you think of the side of
What if-
sky's the limit, you know, touching that, it just becomes
Mhm.
like taboo. So that's my concern, is that if it's a very visible facade, there's probably better things even than a mural that should happen with that building, but.
What if it's not applied directly to the surface, but to another surface like the plywood? And then that's
Like bumped out a few inches.
not even, it could just be.
If it's right on the right of way, you're gonna, that building is right at the property line. So now you're gonna be encroaching into the right of way. I mean, that's just one
It's just for-
example. A
yeah.
different building that might be
For,
fine.
for preservation purposes.
Hmm.
Okay, so I think we need to, like, this is a great discussion, and I guess we don't need to decide today, but if we want to move it forward, I mean, is there any thought about just keeping both of these in, or just keeping the second one in? That would, you know, eliminate working over historic buildings, or, I don't know, are you prepared to decide, or?
I think that makes sense about the historic buildings,
Yeah.
like not to mess with that.
And you can do historic buildings in the alley, is that correct?
Mhm.
So you still can do a historic
Oh.
building, but it would not be on the. just
Not
on the
if,
front Street facing primary, and it could be on
Right.
the alleyways going down.
Yeah.
Even if it's unfinished brick, you can do that.
I don't, well, this reads
Mm.
murals shall only be placed directly on
Yeah, that's
unimproved
what-
surfaces,
that's what I
concrete
thought.
block or painted brick facades.
Yeah.
So that first part of that bullet point from,
Yeah.
seems like you couldn't
You
do it in
couldn't,
an
yeah.
alleyway.
That's, I mean, I have an issue with that because there are some alleyways. I'm thinking of Howard going down.
Right.
I don't know if some of those buildings are historic, I take it. Between.
High Five Spirit?
Between Mitchell, yeah.
Yeah.
High Five Spirit was,
Alley.
but it's not painted.
I think it.
There are
it's-
some,
it's-
there is some,
I
but
is
it looks like some.
And then
Only
they.
one side.
They already
Yeah.
have wings there.
But are we okay with those painted, even though it is maybe a historic building?
That's a good question, because according to the ordinance right now, it looks like it says murals only,
Yeah.
you know, that you couldn't actually do it in an alleyway.
Could be
To me,
an exception put in for a non-primary facade.
Yeah.
So that would also require an ordinance change.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
if we're gonna do it anyway, and 3 months isn't that long in government. So.
you're gonna see in Ironwood, they've got some unbelievable, ugly looking alleyways that they've now got. You know, maroon painted with flower pots and art, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, I think the intent of this is to not be putting murals on historic facades, but if you have up above, you can't be on a primary facade, then it's not. I mean, generally, an alley facade is a blank wall anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, it looks like they're two. The first, this is the section 8-402, murals shall only be placed directly on unimproved concrete block or painted brick facades. And then the second sentence, they'll not be painted on unpainted brick surfaces or facades with ornate and historic architectural features and
Okay,
elements.
so
So
that,
two things.
right, but so that's what it's saying painted on unpainted brick surfaces or, I was thinking it said unpainted brick surfaces facades with ornate and historic architecture, but it doesn't, it says or.
So it seems like that would require a change in the ordinance.
Right.
Or it's with the exception of alleyways.
Just add that little phrase at the
Yeah.
end.
With the exception of the alleyways, so the board can still say, no, we don't like it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great to paint over some of that stuff by Gypsy Rock. It seems like it's fading out, it's ugly, it was poorly done, you know, somebody just slapped it up there.
What's the upside? Think about, I mean, yeah, you know, that could become a go-to place. It could be a real value, you know, to our foot traffic and things like that versus it's just an ugly alley.
Well, we ended up getting a guide for walking through all of our art and stuff. Leads it right through to this alley, which brings people from the waterfront to downtown through the alleys, and then, wow, here's Petoskey, so.
Let's try it.
So just a question, so we're making edits to I'm gonna make the edits you're suggesting to the policy, so we'll need to review those again before they get submitted to city council. So are we gonna wait till the next meeting and hopefully maybe approve whatever the changes are? And then at that time, ask city council to approve the policy with the change to the ordinance?
Yeah. Change that of legal.
Or whether just the process, I'm wondering.
I think they'd have to amend the ordinance, I
Mhm.
mean. I guess you can get the policy the way you want it, but it's all contingent on whether they adopt amendments to the ordinance.
So could we propose that amendment to the ordinance, only that change with the exception of alleys or alleyways? I don't know which is the preferred term, alleys, whatever. So could we submit that to the city council to amend the ordinance with just by adding that phrase to the ordinance? And then at the next meeting, I'll make the changes to the policy. We can review that and then submit it to city council for their review and.
I think this has a lot better chance of passing because you put this piece in that on the painted cement, block or bricks and stuff. I don't think you're gonna have that, if you would have had it where they could be going on to facades in the front on main streets and stuff, I think you would have had, there would have been pushback. I don't see a lot of pushback. I'm just giving you my own opinion on this. I support moving this forward. I think this would not take the first reading, second reading away. It would
Just
take-
shoot it
take
down.
2 meetings.
Yeah.
So the only change we're making, we're not asking for any, you know, or even if it's a cinder block facade, we're not asking for that. We're only asking for with the exception of alleyways, so that a brick, unpainted brick surface in an alleyway could be painted. Is that what I'm?
simple change to the ordinance.
You may also have a situation where you have an unpainted brick wall that's not fronting an alley, but would be appropriate
Mhm.
for, so I
Yeah.
think just adding an alley may, it helps, but it may, I don't know, I think as a first step, it's. We can't, there's so many what ifs. I mean, we can go on forever and ever, you know, let's draw the line, move forward, we can always amend it, come back, adjust it, that didn't turn out the way we thought it would. Let's revisit it, things, I'm just saying, let's move on.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're not asking for any change about primary facades. That's still out, right?
I don't like it. But yeah, I guess.
For now.
Oh, okay, so the only change.
Amy is correct in that we are looking at historic buildings, we are looking at a whole plan for this. And, I think would fly in the face of that, and I think it would be hard to pass at city council. When you start saying, well, my hardware, one of those stores in the front across the street are gonna be totally painted up facades. I think you'll have issues with that, I do. Regardless of, I've not weighed in on, I have mixed feelings on it, I see them both ways, it's like.
Yeah.
Cool, but yet, historic district wise. Character of the city, you know, there's a lot to weigh in on.
Totally.
So the process, what's the process for proposing the amendment to the ordinance then? Like, what do we, is that something I need to work, just reword that and submit it, send it to you, or like? what's the-
Yeah, I was just get it to the red line changes and the red line changes to the current ordinance, just get us those and we'll put it on for first reading and then it requires 2 readings.
Right. Okay,
It could
so,
require 2 readings, and what happens, we read the first, if it's not minimal changes. It may say, okay, we need another first reading, so we have another first reading. And then with the next meeting after that.
all right. All right, I'll get the, do that, I'll get that to you today.
I don't know, is there anybody that's
I
ready
know.
to put paint on the wall that you know of?
I agree.
I know of 2 different parties who are interested in doing alley facing murals.
This would delay them at all.
Yeah, we-
Mary B, did you say you had some people?
these were just in conversations.
Just conversations, okay.
Ordinance has to be passed first, correct, Sarah?
I didn't hear you, John, what was that?
The ordinance would have to be passed first before they can start painting on the.
And your policy and guidelines, and they're two driving each
Recognition
other, and
process,
then, yeah.
the review, approval, yeah. Okay. Okay, all right, can we keep going then? Okay, so, so the policy, we passed that, then following approval by, okay, I'm gonna change that, they don't need the, city council. They will have to, after they've been approved by this body, there's gonna be like an agreement, like we have with our, the artists that are commissioned to do public works. There'll be an agreement and outlining the terms of the agreement and the details of the process and agreeing to a 5-year maintenance plan. Work may not commence without the approval, and then I'll take city council off. It can't commence without our approval and a signed agreement. Murals must be maintained for at least 5 years from the date of completion, at which time the owner may choose to remove the mural without a permit. If removed, the wall surface must be repaired or restored within 6 months of removal. If the mural is not removed after 5 years, it must be consistently maintained. A clear anti-graffiti code is recommended for maintenance. Murals may not be altered beyond repairs without additional review and approval by the Public Arts Commission. pre-existing non-conforming murals, any mural that conformed with an ordinance in effect at the time said mural was created, must be maintained in its present shape and size with ordinary repairs so as to remain in a safe condition and to avoid unsightly deterioration. If the mural is not properly maintained, the mural must be removed and the wall repaired. And the next bullet point is, what are the consequences for violations?
So a couple.
Yeah.
Questions.
Yeah.
One, I think the anti-graffiti code should be required.
Okay.
And then the discussion of things, okay, so the 5-year plan, following
Mhm.
approval, must sign an agreement outlining terms and details of the process and a 5-year maintenance plan.
Mhm.
So I just asked myself, so if someone vandalizes their mural,
Mhm.
is that something, like they have to, in this 5-year plan, it does say if our mural gets vandalized, we're going to clean up the, I don't know if we need to put it in there, but.
That's a good point. So maintenance includes the repair of vandalism.
So we're talking, the artist is doing this.
No, the
That's
owner of the mural.
The owner. Who's paying for it?
The owner.
The owner.
The owner of the.
It is part of maintenance, is removing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we should put in the word acceptable to this board when we do the review, and the review should be, what are they using for, final coat?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because as you and I have looked and researched, there are certain materials
Yep.
that you use, and there's certain stuff you can buy cheaply,
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
enamel it, and that's not gonna weatherize.
Well, maybe we put right in it, maintenance plan must include and put the materials that do work.
Mhm.
What are the
Maybe.
2 required materials?
Maybe except for whatever they use to paint, it would have to work with their substrate, whatever they're
Oh.
painting on or their material
Like
or.
that's
Yeah,
all.
the code is, material specific.
Yeah.
Is there a reapplication too? And I don't know enough about it, of the anti-graffiti coating, like for the tunnel. How often?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And that should be
We
put
need
in
to
there
talk
too.
about that too, because there is some.
Regular reapplication of anti-graffiti coatings, every 2 years or whatever,
Required from you.
whatever the life expectancy is. Yeah.
Have some anti-graffiti.
It does, and I'd have to take at least, we have that product and we've used anti-graffiti. Before the mural was there, we had anti-graffiti stuff on it, and usually what would happen is that when we would repair graffiti, we'd go back and we would coat the spot that we treated, not the entire,
Not treated.
yeah.
This graffiti is actually scratched into the mural.
In the
It-
tunnel.
Currently.
It's taken off, they actually scratched through the concrete. Yeah,
Oh.
it's not huge, but anyway, but that, we need to talk about that too, but we should probably get through this.
Can I just make a comment, on the ordinance, section 8402, number 6, it does say the property owner must sign an agreement with the city that outlines the terms and conditions of the required maintenance for the mural.
Yeah.
So maybe like your comments that you're discussing right now, maybe it's in this agreement.
Yeah.
That whatever the specifics, it's in the agreement, they can't even begin until this agreement is signed.
Yeah, that's all in here, yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're good with that.
yeah, that they have to sign in, so the agreement.
Yeah, but I
clearly-
mean the comments about if things get graffiti
Oh,
and
yeah,
everything, like what's a maintenance plan, and like it's very defined in that
Yeah.
agreement, that when they sign that, there's no ifs,
Yeah.
ands, or buts.
Yeah, so I made a draft of the, application, but I didn't make a draft of the agreement. So I will do, when we get to that, we'll definitely include that. And I think the part about including graffiti, including vandalism, like that's, I think that's good to have that. in there.
Consequence of violations, I think, was highlighted on this. thing.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I
like,
made a
who's
comment,
poli- yeah.
just to chime in the ordinance, it does say in section 402(3), where if they don't maintain a good repair, peeling paint, damage due to age, weather, vandalism, failure to maintain, ... Ordinance enforcement would result, or notification would be to the ordinance, our code enforcement officer, appropriate enforcement action by the city including recovery of related expenses for enforcement. So I'd imagine if they're violating the ordinance, it would be like any other municipal civil infraction.
Okay,
And interrupt Shane, Amy, but we do already have a resolution by council that sets those fees, and there's a 4-step fee.
okay.
That if they don't comply with ordinance requirements, then code enforcement can notify, and then step 1, 2, 3,
Okay.
4.
So I could just copy that into the policy. Mhm.
So that answers your
Yep,
highlighted.
okay. good. Okay, and then, review criteria, these are really kind of open-ended, let me know if you'd like to see more. The applicant must own the location, obviously.
So I had a question about that.
Yeah,
Cause what if there was a tenant, but they had the property owner's approval?
Ooh, good
Uh-huh.
question.
No?
What happens if the tenant moves out? Who's responsible for the maintenance and care of it?
Maybe the owner has to apply, not the tenant.
I agree.
Right.
It should be on somebody's head because that tenant
Yeah.
packs up and moves. Now we're chasing somebody down in Alabama, who's down.
uh, okay, so we're okay with that one. The visual content must be family friendly and not contain violence, sexual, commercial, religious, partisan, or political imagery. And any thoughts about that? About even,
I just have internal
That sounds good to
comments.
me.
You're blushing.
You wanna see that?
I had a
No.
question, if the church wanted a mural, you know, and it's their property
Oh.
and they wanted something religious and it's facing.
Yeah.
No, but
That's a great question. And I think.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little tricky getting into freedom of speech.
Yep.
Yeah.
Expression.
you know, this, some of this I lifted from the, you know, the city policies around the country that I didn't do any research to see if their freedom of speech, rights, people who are, you know.
Well, and this group has the authority to put this in. The interpretation is by this group, so
Right.
there is some guidelines, some, you know, guardrails there.
Shane, would this be reviewed by legal?
The policy itself,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because.
Please.
yeah.
They could weigh in
For a
on,
bunch of.
they could weigh in on
So
something like that.
with the review criteria, again, we could just keep it open-ended that needs to be family friendly and not have that other list of things. And then have that be part of the review, somebody saying, well, this is political. Like it could be part of the review process
But not
without
what-
stating it in the criteria if there's a concern about.
If you never,
freedom
but
of
if they
speech.
come in and it's violent, sexual, commercial, partisan, and they go, hey,
Political.
you didn't have any.
But it's not family friendly, it would still wouldn't be family friendly.
Okay.
But that
well,
could-
You
That'd
have
be
got
like-
some,
Yeah,
and I go, for my family, that's acceptable,
Yeah, right.
so.
There is something to what you just said about having it in the review process and not in the criteria for the submission. If they're
But
submitting. a
this stops
thing.
people from getting to that point where it is
Yeah.
becoming
You don't want them.
but if it's illegal, I don't know, like if it's freedom of speech thing, that's all of us, I don't feel.
But you say that other places have state.
Yeah, they do,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I
but
say leave it in and it's acceptable in other places.
The ACLU comes knocking.
Well, so they come knocking and we go back and we review this and we make changes. Shane, is it correct? The city, we make changes right along, don't we, periodically? So
Yeah.
it's okay. You put the best step forward and then milk it back from there. Maybe they'll think, oh, you have to take the religious piece off. Okay.
So do you have the religious in there?
Yeah, this-
You do, okay.
Okay, next is proposed design must exhibit aesthetic competence and technical skills and must visually enhance the location. Everything is subjective, but that is, you know.
Art is
you know,
subjective.
Yeah, so.
Well, and also public,
Yeah.
public too,
So visually enhance the location gives this body a lot of latitude for, you know,
I like the piece about technical too.
Yeah.
That does give the body also a reason to say like, this isn't quite.
It's too amateur, yeah,
Right.
or whatever, yeah.
So this was taken, the next one was taken from the ordinance. The proposed design should promote or enhance the character of the city. That also gives the body room to, you know, Judge Works proposals. The mural may recognize donors and sponsors, but these must be placed at the bottom margin of the mural and may not exceed, and I just made up these dimensions, may not exceed 12 inches in height or 24 inches in width. So would that be?
That's pretty big.
Want to give a percentage of.
12 is a lot, I think.
Depends on how big the wall is.
A long name for a business, sponsor, you know.
11,
Is it?
11 and a half.
Entire wall. So do you have it be a percentage of the size?
Don't you think that's too big?
I think a standard size is more when you.
Depending on the wall.
More standard.
Give them inches.
We just don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
6
but I mean,
inches
if it's a
max.
mural that doesn't take up a wall, you could end up with like huge logos on a small, I mean.
So do you want to give me a different dimension? I was just like pulling that out.
Well, it doesn't-
Like, no more than 5% of the mural area or something like that.
A percentage?
Right.
Should be a standard size for all of them.
I thought I read that.
Yeah, that's why, yeah.
Most artists on murals I see are just a signature.
But if they're
Not
sponsors,
include
people
graphics or
paint a
text.
mural and they want
On a
to.
plaque.
I think 12 is too much.
Commercial
I
advertising.
think no more than 8.
6 by 12.
I mean, it's kind of like.
6 by 12.
It's a good number.
I'd go for that.
If there are 5 sponsors, do they all need to fit?
No.
within this? That's what I was thinking. If there are
Oh,
multiple.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
Like maybe we need to have per sponsor and overall, like if there are 10 sponsors, it still needs to fit within whatever.
1 inch per sponsor.
No, that's too
That's
big.
bigger than an inch.
Half a square foot.
Yeah.
Question, what's the old rules and regulations? Glass, not just on the storefront, but like on sides or things like that. I think percentage of, and.
You talk
the-
about signs now?
Yeah, mural signs, things like that. But in general is, if you're gonna look at the size that's available, are you including the square feet of the glass that's there or just of
I
the?
don't figure. I think just coming up with a standard, this is the size and you walk around town, you know that this is basically the size that you're gonna have to deal with.
How big is
Period.
that? Per
2 by
name.
8? Or not even 1.5 by 8?
1.5 by 7.
I have no idea.
Those are too small.
That's just.
Per name.
To me,
How about like 4 by 12 per sponsor and then, you know, can't exceed that size and then, you know, I don't know,
But-
something
but
else.
you
more.
4 of those.
right here.
2 of those end to end and then another 2 on top of them.
Mhm.
Which would be
Go.
8 by
Oh, 8 by 12.
That's big enough. Or 6 by 2.
Well, like if it says right here, a mural, it does not include.
I think that's too
graphics
big.
or text. Why can they allow it?
That's.
So just
Longer
say how
rather
many
than
square
high.
Inches.
Right,
That- that's-
Square inch.
So this is 8 by 11, so this.
You're gonna
11
need
half, so this
flexibility
is
depending on.
90 inches.
Just say if it's 8 by 12, that's 80, 96, it can't be
I feel
more
like
than
I've given
96 square
episode.
inches.
And then questions on, cause you brought up the logo, so.
Office maybe.
Yeah, the-
If you're putting a business, say a business is sponsoring this mural and now they have their business logo, is that not signage?
Logo, I think it's.
Logo there.
Well, I included that in sponsorship, in the like the sponsor, you can have text in the sponsorship or a logo in the sponsorship, but it can't exceed whatever.
So you got basically 96 inches, you could,
96
Take this-
square inches.
you could cut this in two and it could be long, could be,
Love it.
go this way. I think, I like what you suggested, 96 and it's pretty standard, really. I mean,
Logos are advertising by definition though, don't you think?
Yeah, they
I
are.
don't think they should, I think it should be just script,
I think so. too.
plain, just script, and in the same fonts for any of them, maybe mandate a font that we use, and I know that's particular, but.
But see, we go to see a lot of murals, we're in Jackson, and they all had different signatures, they have. different
Yeah.
letters. And, you know,
If you want to
Just think of
encourage
it.
murals, giving businesses the opportunity to have like this much
Mhm.
real estate to support a big mural, it seems like, just from my perspective, like, I get what you're saying, it's advertising, but they're also paying for it and they're maintaining it for 5
Mhm.
years.
Want them to do it.
As long as it's not too big, that's,
Yeah.
It's 96
If the
square.
logos,
Can
look,
exceed that
the
big.
logo, if logos are included, it can't exceed whatever such and diet.
And you guys are gonna be able to come back and say, we don't like that, that this is
Right.
saying sponsored by, Wellington Bank, and that's the whole piece, is that, you want the artist name on it.
would it be better though to have a stand, rather than 96 inches? So much at the bottom of each,
Not the
so there's,
artist's name. We're talking about sponsors, not the artist's names.
so there's
Right.
consistency. Have every mural in the sponsorship in a certain space at the
Well, it already
bottom.
says that, but it has to be at the lower margin of the.
Yeah, but I'm saying, if you're talking, if 96 inches, they could go up higher in it, and then it starts to get into the mural that we're,
96 square inches.
I know.
About the size of the sheet, you can cut this any way you want.
Right, I
So
know.
you're saying they would do a
I'm
96
saying-
inch, 1 inch
Keep
long?
it consistent with each mural, so high, so long.
Yeah,
Like, it
but
could
takes
go
away
over
the
the whole
creativity.
length of the,
Yeah, I
mural.
think so too. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, I get wanting some conformity, but that also kind of goes against some doing a mural.
Well, could-
Yeah.
but the focus is supposed to be on the mural.
But if it already says at the bottom and we constrain the square inches, and I agree, like, yeah, you need some flexibility in the shape of, you know.
Right.
Or the number they have or whatever, so giving them the square inches, I think that's.
Maybe it's real estate one, and they've got a circle, what the heck, so you allow the circle.
Yeah,
Could we say could we just start with say 96 square inches, but the
Yep.
placement of the sponsors and any logos also needs approval from the commission. So we see where it is,
Yeah.
we see what they're doing. It's gotta be part of the mock-up.
Mm.
And that
Okay.
way, if they're doing right in the middle on
Okay.
96.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. You've got bottom
Yeah,
margin.
yeah.
Right, okay.
If you got a logo like Amazon or something, it says it all. It's just, but I misspoke earlier when I was talking about the glass. I was wondering if we were, the larger the mural, the larger the sign, and what all would be. So it's fixed.
fixed, yeah.
Size.
96 square
So
inches.
that it's consistent all with every mural wherever you go, downtown, big or small.
You can identify
Are
it.
we gonna put in there at the bottom though?
It's already in there.
It
Yeah,
already
okay.
says at the bottom margin, I didn't say.
Okay,
that right,
okay,
but
all
I don't know,
right.
did you want it to be?
No,
Okay.
I think that's.
96 square inches sponsored, but reviewed, included in draft and for review. Okay. Let's see, the proposed wall must be in good condition or repairs planned in advance of installation to ensure the durability of the mural. The proposed materials must be appropriate for the wall surface and climate to ensure the durability. The applicant must submit completed mural application packet and fee, okay? So then here's process for submission. Individuals and businesses interested in commissioning a mural for a public facing exterior wall must submit a mural application, and there's a rough draft of what that would be, but it's mostly just beyond basic information, it's a request for these materials. So application fee to be determined by the city council, and then a single PDF with all of these documents. Demonstration of ownership of property, an elevation drawing that includes accurate dimensions and architectural features such as windows and doors, photographs of the walls and details of the surface. This is a question, should we draft just a condition report so we know what the wall's made out of and the condition of the wall? I mean, I don't know, that's a question. You could hold on to that for me. Summary of necessary repairs that must precede the creation or installation of the mural. Detailed color drawings, renderings of the mural to scale that include the locations of architectural features such as windows and doors and any proposed additional lighting, and I can put here sponsorship stuff. A detailed description of the proposed process and materials for realizing the mural, including wall preparation, the kind of paint or other materials being used. That's in case somebody wants to do a mosaic or something else. Methods of application installation, like the tunnel was done with an airbrush. Is it hand painted? Like, you know, how are they doing it? and, what their plan for weather and graffiti proofing. A proposed timeline for installation, including a rain plan. This is a little bit tough because they won't know, you know, the window for approval is, I think I said 60 to 90 days, so it's kind of hard for them to have a rain plan, knowing when they can start it, but basically, you know, a kind of proposed timeline for what would be, how long it's gonna take, what would be done when. Resume for the artist creating the mural, demonstration of insurance for creation and installation of the mural, 5-year maintenance plan, concerns, and then adding the specificity that we talked about before, what that actually means. Concerns regarding public safety if pedestrian or other traffic will be impacted by the installation, and then just additional permits may be required if scaffolding or sprayers will be used in public locations. So that's what we'd be asking. It's a lot, you know, to ask, but it's pretty thorough submission. So one question I had was, you know, do you want a 2-step process where somebody, you know, kind of gets approval for like a basic concept and then comes back and has to submit this complete PDF with all this material? Or do you want to just start at the get-go? Like, here's the application. If you want to do it, you need to submit all this stuff. And then when this body reviews it, then there's enough information to review it once to say yes or no, or yes, if you make these changes. So that's a question.
I like that just because you're not gonna have people just, you know, like on a whim, like, because you have
Willy-nilly.
people who
Maybe
are
I wanted
really
to
serious
do
about
this.
going
Yeah.
forward with.
Okay.
I agree.
I will say, oh, you go.
I would say it's very rare that people give all the things that you ask for.
Right.
It's the first time.
I also think there's one, just from process perspective, is if, let's say, a store owner approaches an artist and asks them, hey, can you mock all this up? And they're paying that artist, and then they get, nope, sorry, we can't do it. If the artist goes through and makes the full proposal, this is exactly what it's gonna be, and then the store owner says, nope, we can't do it anymore.
Then they're out paying the artist for the work.
And I just wonder how much of, like, how much of a fully recognized rendering, and if that's even something we think about.
That's a good question. I would say, like, if we were gonna require this, the store owner would need, or whoever the individual that's getting, would need to have the resources to be able to pay the artist fairly and take
Totally.
their chances.
Yeah.
But
But the other thing
I would
is it allows them not to spend a whole bunch of money and a lot of investment and time only for this group to say, no, we don't like it at all. Instead of coming in, first step, what do you want? What do we need to make changes to get this through to you? It saves time, and I think it also saves money for those people that.
To do.
And
That
time for
process
the artist.
is a similar process to how we use other applications. Special event applications, they submit their information and we review it, and if it's approved, then we get the insurance, and then we get the you know, other arrangements need to be made, so it's not uncommon to have a couple of some back and forth after an application is submitted.
I just hate to see somebody go and spend all the money and time and then find out that we say no to it.
Right.
Well, if they read the criteria, they're gonna hopefully, you know,
Well,
bear that, all of those points in mind.
the interpretation of some of this is
Loose.
a little loose.
And it's a lot of information. It's a lot to go over.
Like you say, nobody ever probably sends all of the information that you want right when it comes in. You end up having to tooth pull sometimes.
So to your
A lot
point,
of staff work, so I had a few questions on this, because I'm assuming unless Shane says otherwise, these applications come to me. I am not an artist. I deal with a lot of applications, and we have, made it very clear of what is required of applicants. And you're right, they do not, as Amy said, and Kendall, get it right, but the back and forth and the staff time of trying to collect this information, and for me to determine if an elevated drawing is accurate to then provide it to you guys for a packet is not my purview.
It's not fair either.
So,
Right.
No, I think you put it in the packet and this body will determine, this is deficient, this is deficient, this is deficient.
So different than how we do all other applications right now, but
Yeah.
also they don't go to a body
Right.
to approve, so that is different than how we do any other application, so.
Yeah.
As long as it's very clear on staff's end, that's great. I just was making that comment, and only, like, for example, demonstration of ownership of the property, just by example, if a short-term rental ordinance, there is, you must provide a copy of the deed, so if that's something that you guys wanna be very specific, fine, great, whatever you guys decide, if it's not staff deciding if it's complete or incomplete, then that's easy. I will say that we do not accept payment electronically, and most all applications aren't submitted electronically, that they have to be submitted, physical, so the right that we're printing everything off, which, I mean, that's fine, that's just something that you guys can determine, but we accept credit card payment in person only, but not over the phone or through website, just as background information, so.
Okay. Okay, so I got three things. One is with the property part of it. Could we just do a search on Emmett County? I mean, when somebody submits.
Tax
it,
records.
I mean,
Yeah.
just that they own the property, do we need to ask them to provide a deed or can we just do a property?
the tax rolls are good, right?
LCC, the property might be under, it depends what they submit, as long as what they've submitted in the application is what their property is listed as.
Okay, well, I guess that's a
There's a
checking
lot
up,
of-
checking up on them. And then, I was gonna say, Sarah, like, we could think of it, the packet, and I want to get back to whether we do it in two stages, because I think there's a good rationale for approaching it that way. Sarah, if we had it like the way we have, the public arts submissions through Cafe, where that packet doesn't even, the application, the physical, yeah, I get what you're saying. It's the application is tied to all the materials, right?
Right.
So you need to get the application, but you don't want to have to review the materials, right?
I mean, I'm just saying, I need direction, staff needs direction on what our role is, but we would be accepting payment here.
I wanna make it easy for Sarah, she's got a full-time. job.
Well, I'm not saying that at all, I'm
I
not
am.
saying.
We are.
Oh, we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Application just go through a platform. It doesn't have to be Cafe would need just a rolling deadline. I'd have to see if that was the appropriate venue, but could the mural application go through there and then the fee would need to be paid in person at the city?
Then she gives them a receipt and.
I mean, that's Shane's call.
I think we just have, like we do everything else, they
Submit it
apply
here.
here, and I think that's fine, but. This body would kind of go through it and see and determine which things the applicant.
Yeah.
Just pass them along.
If it's just a completed application.
Right.
So, okay, so as far as the materials, how much material does it, like, let's go for a minute down the avenue of, it's gonna be a two-stage process where an artist submits a rough drawing, the property owner submits a rough, sort of a rough idea with the address, like, how much information do you need to pass the person on to the second step? Because I think in contrast to events, as Kendall was saying, like, there's a lot of stuff that this group needs to know about to really approve. Like, what's the condition of the wall? You just can't paint over stuff.
Right.
Like, it needs to know, and timeline and scaffolding. And so, like, how much information would you want for a first run for initial approval?
I'd say bullets 1 through 3. And then 3, the detailed colored, well, maybe not detailed color drawings, but. I mean, again,
think that-
we want a concept
Right.
first, it's almost like a conceptual
Like a
review.
thumbnail, like a small,
I think we need to see images of the wall where it's going.
Yes.
Right.
You need to see what that's gonna look like on the building, so you need to have it scaled on there, so you know what percentage of the building it's taking.
So like,
So you
so-
need-
Renderings of the
Yeah, we need
building.
scaled renderings of the wall with.
this is for the
and with
initial?
Existing and with the mural, I would think.
So
Yeah, I
I'm
would,
moving into a two-stage process.
yeah,
Let's
I would
take-
think initial though, I mean, that's
Yeah.
just like basic.
I think so.
So let's take off the bullet points from here that we want in the second review. If it passes the first review, then
Yeah.
here's else what we're gonna need. So we need to know they own the property, we want an elevation drawing, want photographs of the wall, the condition report, well, we can deal with that later. Summary of necessary repairs later. Detailed description of process proposed, we want that later, or is that part of the first round of knowing
Well,
what
I think
materials? are
like
gonna use?
knowing what materials are gonna be used.
Okay,
is-
so-
I mean, they should have an idea of that.
Okay, so
initially.
materials, but maybe not a whole detailed description of the process. and,
Yeah,
They should have gotten a hold of the artist and already talked about it. It should be together.
So we don't need the timeline, take the timeline off. Don't need the resume, don't need demonstration of insurance. Don't need the 5-year maintenance plan. They know from earlier on that that's a requirement, but they don't need to give us the plan. And then they don't need to express, say if there any issues around public safety with scaffolding and blah, blah, they would get rid of those. So the first round, so then we need the initial application, and then what we need to call this, then there's gonna be a second review, materials requested for second review. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm curious about, from a visual standpoint, like, are we gonna be able to print out and visualize someone, like, when we do the call
Mhm.
for the public art, we
Yeah.
have it on the screen, it's big, we can all see it, it's full
That's a
color.
good point. So I'll ask for like a digital, I'll ask for
Digital.
JPEG or whatever, photograph.
Or we can do like an AI thing too. It's amazing what you can do
Yeah.
with ChatGPT as far as like superimposing something,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Really amazing.
Yeah, we had a photograph of the wall. Do that.
you just don't know if the scale is gonna be accurate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll split that up into, into two, the initial application with submission materials and then the second review. So then is the review process, I have it outlined here, once submitted mural applications, that's the first phase of the application, will be reviewed at monthly Arts Commission meeting, second Thursday of each month, and then I'll add a bullet point if accepted, second review with additional information. And then if the mural proposal is approved by the Arts Commission, well, it's not being sent to the city council, but if the mural proposal is approved by the city, I'm not gonna say mural proposal, if the mural application is approved by the Arts Commission, the submitter, I'll wordsmith it, but basically the idea is that they'll supply more additional materials. The applicant will supply additional materials, and I'll say what they are. Sorry, I have to make notes. Okay, so then decisions will be made and communicated within 60 days of receiving applications. That could still hold true for the initial application. The time frame will depend on the date of submission in relationship to Arts Commission meeting calendar and the complexity of the proposal. And then I'll add something about second round, the timeline for the second round. If the proposal is not accepted by the Arts Commission, the applicant will be notified in writing, including the rationale for rejection. A revised proposal may be submitted within 90 days without an additional application fee. I didn't know that was a question.
Now, the review and everything will be at a public meeting. I would think the applicant would be.
Oh, right
present.
there, yeah.
Make their case, yeah.
Likely the artist as
Yeah.
well, but
Mhm.
you are gonna wanna give them a written, but they'll know.
Yeah, that's.
So that can be created right here. What we do.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
There could even be a form, like, yeah.
Figure out what to say to them.
Mm.
We'll just compose it.
We have a sort of, if we go back to the rubric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could use a
Okay.
rubric. So that's all I have for the review process.
On the next page, 9, I was just when it says, the last bullet point says, once the agreement is signed and received by the Arts Commission, the city will summarize and share the project relievers, or should that be the applicant?
Oh, so, John and I talked about that.
Go ahead.
So John and I talked about that and it was, you know, one issue that I had initially had that the owner of the property would do that. But then when then I thought, well, maybe we could create a template for here's the information you need to share and how to share it. Because there was the concern about when they were sharing the information, they weren't looking for feedback from their neighbors. Oh, change this. I don't like where you put that, you know, making it, just offering people a template that they could fill out. But then John mentioned that it might,
300 feet.
yeah, 300 feet. And then he mentioned that the city has access to those. You suggested that we make that a city project.
So is that
The
good
Sarah
with you to
County.
just send out a notice 300 feet?
I mean, that's able to be done, but I mean, I would need language of what this message would be.
So we would make a template and then, you know, summarize.
You have a small template that you probably use now for when you send stuff out for CPA.
It's all.
all
like
different though.
Specific.
Yeah.
Specific on the body.
But, and this would need to include the specifics, you know, we decide what information about the mural project we wanted to share. Here's an image of it, here's the timeline, here's the materials, you know, here's how it could impact pedestrian flow if that's something. And, you know, just sort of a checklist of pieces of information that need to be shared with the neighbors. So I think we come up with a template or I come up with something and you, whatever, reiterate it. And then,
It's simple, so that
it's standardized.
so that when she sends it out, it's just pull the people addresses and mail.
It's an informative only, it's not
Letting them, the next meeting is such and such, and if you have a comment or
concern.
Well,
help me out, Sarah.
this is saying once the agreement is signed, so to me, you guys have already approved the mural and the agreement is signed and then you're notifying.
No, it's
Yeah.
prior to that.
So then something needs to change unless I'm,
So I thought that my understanding from the last meeting was that, yes, this body approved it and then neighbors were just informed of it and they weren't really.
Yeah, you want to have the chance to.
Yeah, okay,
Just move it up.
reverse it, okay. So how much time do we need between notification? 30 days.
Whatever standard.
Jane, what is standard or Amy or Sarah?
Flowers, it's usually go out 14 or 21 days. But they can.
14 days, yeah. Then we do a 14-day, or is this more?
So if someone has concerns or whatever, would they come to this meeting? When they
Yeah, or leave message.
Excuse me.
Okay, so just order of operations, we've reviewed it, we've approved it, everything's good, we think it's fabulous. We have a forum, a draft of this.
Before you do final approval,
Yeah.
that's where it comes in that there is that
Well,
14-day public
well,
notice.
before we communicate to the artist, I mean, this group has said, yeah, we want to move it forward. Then this form letter gets sent out with the information to the residents within a, 300-foot range. And then, the next meeting, if they have public comment, that's fine. And if not, then we send it out and we say, okay, your mural was approved. Is that the order of operations?
I think that's, you know,
Yeah, that does add more delays to.
Yeah.
this
It
process,
does.
So just understand that.
how do you get around it though? Not have neighbors approve it?
well, that's what the last discussion, was it more just informing? Or
Yeah.
is it allowing public input and then affecting the decision of approving it or not?
Yeah, the last meeting, I think we just said, if this body approves it, we just are informing people within a certain range, but we wanna give them a chance for public comment.
That would have to come between the two.
I think most things say there's a public hearing here for city council sent out because we're doing an ordinance change or we're redoing the streets.
But what if somebody's doing like construction on their building? Does that happen? Don't you just get it
I mean,
approved
if-
and then do it?
Post your building permit, so people
Yeah.
know you have approval to do it.
Yeah.
But that has to go through a step two, right?
Yeah, we took the permitting part out of this process, so they don't, once,
I guess it's not like we're talking about residential, that most of this is gonna be commercial property.
It could be residential.
Amy, what do you think?
That's true.
I think it should be the onus of the property owner to contact adjacent property owners, and that's it.
and not the city, that the property owners should do it, and they have X amount of time. We provide them with a template, and
Mhm.
then
So what if they
don't?
say no?
What if they, well,
Well,
They don't like
You
it.
could put that in the agreement that they sign off.
If they do a half-ass job and say what the hell.
I mean, if they've met our criteria, it's art. So
And
this
we're
is the body approving. The neighbor may not want art next door, but that doesn't mean they get to say it doesn't happen.
True.
we don't.
So
This isn't a public project.
it's not a public project,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Let's move on and leave it off.
So then we go back to just sending out,
Yeah.
Like, what does planning commission have a policy they use for?
It's set by state law.
Yeah.
You post it.
Notifications and.
And then like,
Just notification, no input.
Like,
Yeah, no, it's just to notify them that at this next
Property
meeting.
owners within 300 feet.
Project,
But
because you're within certain distance, you are able to come and voice your concerns.
Hmm.
per se.
It gives them a successful layer of.
They
Trace.
feel,
Those are.
yeah.
it does seem like it's a courtesy to
It
let people
does.
know. We talked about that, just to let people know, and that, like, the last meeting, we said, well, it's a courtesy to let people know, we'll just let them know, but we weren't inviting. I guess the real question is it important to open that up, and then are we opening up to, okay, we got a public sculpture going in, do we wanna have public comment about, where that's
Right.
gonna be, or
We
does it
go
open
through
up a
public
can of worms?
process for any of the public
Right.
pieces we put on public property, but now we're gonna make a private property owner go through that process.
I don't think it should be that process, like you're saying, but maybe just a courtesy, like, this is gonna happen in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Or why even bother telling them that if you're
Just
gonna do
courtesy.
it?
For, like
Them
like you
calling the
said.
city saying, what's going on?
What kind of phone calls would you expect? Cause, I mean,
You're the one getting the.
Shane, what kind of call would you get?
There's any number of calls that will.
I just think you're gonna screw up a great building wall that is plain and
They
beautiful.
don't
and-
like that color, they don't like this figure, he sat at a 30-degree angle, could look like it's heads in a position that's sexual or had that before.
This is how those condo communities end up with such milquetoast places.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll give him the mayor's cell number and.
Be falling on this. We're
under the
gonna,
radar.
are we tabling it for now and we can decide this later?
You're gonna bring this back to us?
Let's bring it back next month. So it'd be nice to know what you want to do about it.
In other policies that you've reviewed, was there a
No.
notification process?
There was, yeah, and they were different. It was like if it was in a dense neighborhood, it was like this many feet. If it was in a rural thing, it was this many. So it qualified by where the mural was. It
Could
was
you
more
even
complicated.
post a sign on the building, like in 30 days, this wall?
And your neighbors would see it.
Yeah.
And we could
Yeah.
design that, and
Yeah.
everything that you are required
Great
to
idea.
post. Yeah,
Looks like we moved on.
okay. Love it. We like that. You post,
So
we
then
give them a
you-
template.
That would be considered a sign and then.
So now Tony's gonna write up the city.
Just a conceptual.
I'm just gonna make sure.
Like a picture. You can put a frame around it and it could be a picture.
City finds.
Okay, so I'm not calling it a sign, I'm calling it a bulletin.
Public notice.
Notice.
Public notice,
Public notice.
posted public, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
You don't
Love
have trouble by putting them out up here.
On your front door, yeah.
I saw one today, wet paint coming in the door.
Oh, yeah.
Is that where I got this from?
Joe, from your application process, explain to us how you have reached out to your neighboring property owners.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
and if they say no, then just forget it and move on.
Oh, well.
I think, I like Shane's idea, just put something on the wall that says mural is gonna
happening.
happen here. I mean, it's the third, they meet next week, May 3rd at City Hall at 12, look, leave it go.
Now, what do you think about Amy? I mean, could it be a suggestion, like, and so you might want to, you know, share this information with your neighbors, but not as a requirement? Like, cause it's gonna be a posted, not a sign, posted, not signed, posted, notification, public notice. Like, do you want me to include something like as a?
Let's just go with it,
We can adjust it next week.
let's just go with it, it's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. Anything else with that?
Feels good.
Oh,
Looks weird, feels good.
thank you, Sarah. Okay, are we gonna review this whole application, or is this,
Yes, we did it. We just went through the whole
we're
thing.
done with the whole thing?
So far, do you have?
We reviewed and discussed it.
Sarah, I have a question and comment. I see Sheila looking at you.
Just, you look like.
No, go ahead.
No,
No, I don't need anything.
No, that's all I got. So I got a lot of good notes. from-
Okay, we've been here 2 hours, we'll move to the next piece if you want. The next one is discuss art commission membership and composition. I feel we've got the great board, I feel. All boards. Every board in the past, I appoint 63 people on 9 boards. There are no staff, no agencies on these boards. And the reason being is these boards are being appointed by a citizen that lives in the city. That represents their neighbors, their neighborhoods, the city itself. This board is unique and different that we have right now, 3 by title. 10 appointed. And it was set up that way. One reason I put that on here was I wanted to make sure Crooked Tree had a voice. Which you're still there. You're on 2 committees. You're on 2 committees.
I am on, yes, for committees, but I'm not on the board anymore. And I've never had the authority to commit the organization to anything. That would have to go from Angela's level or higher. So,
But I tried to make sure that I got artists, teachers, citizens, different neighborhoods. I tried to make sure that it wasn't all clustered in one little block. So I tried to spread you guys out, which I do male to female. I also try to do that. So I try to get some balance here on this. And so I know that's where it is right now. There are 3 people up in September. I think one thing that needs to be reviewed in the future, I don't feel like today at 2 o'clock after 2 hours going through discussing a situation of we had to cancel a meeting because people were gone. And there are, when I did the itemized list of who's here and who's not. Who's been absent, I've got some absentees that are pretty extensive, like over 50% for one. 45, 40% for another, and that I question whether that really represents that piece of it. If you're on vacation, if you go on winter break, winter vacation for 5 months and you're out of the picture, that really doesn't help participation because you can't participate online and vote. You can speak in public at the end of the thing, but you really aren't in a part for the dialogue. So I leave it up to you guys to discuss that. I thought that's something we could discuss the membership piece of in the future. But if you wish to discuss that today, that's up to you. Yeah.
I'd like to bring up just one thing, and I'm glad Angela's still here, but we have representation from downtown, from the Parks and Rec and so forth, and I think you and I, we discussed back long time ago about Crooked Tree being at the table as an entity. And, you know, for us to consider adding a position, either adding another new position in addition to what's here, or of those, was it 6 riparian at large, if one of those individuals term out, and then when that individual leaves, John, you said in September is when a couple folks' terms are up?
Yeah, but what happens if they all reapply? Do I tell them you're replaced by somebody else?
Well, let's see where the applications show up.
Yeah, which is in September.
Yes.
You had mentioned 2 things that Crooked Tree could, as I said, okay, give me an example of what Crooked Tree would bring to the table that we don't have now. And you said one was they have staff ability to identify in the city where we could put art in the community. But I feel we've already got that with Kendall, and we've got the neighbors, people living in the neighborhood to do that. So I think that's addressed. The other one was, as you said, they would write letters of support for us getting grants, and they are very well known in the state and all around Crooked Tree. I go to stuff, I love their jobs and what they do. I've attended numerous stuff. But you said that would help us get more grants and more money. You said that, and I was surprised because I would think that they would do a letter irregardless of what our relationship, whether they're on the board by title or not, that they would still support what we do because it's art.
I didn't mean to infer that they would replace or take over those responsibilities.
No, yeah. But what I'm saying is, I hope that it wasn't on the condition that if they weren't here, that they would write a letter for what we do.
No, but if you look, I think at other communities and so forth, I think that the local arts or the dominating arts organization has a place at the table. And I think that Crooked Tree, yeah, I may have, when this was set up, sure, I was on the board and so forth, and they said, okay, yeah, you represent Crooked Tree. Yeah, I remember those discussions, but I'm not on the board anymore. So.
This one concern I had was when they said, look, and I was told this by several, we do not want to share donors, we don't want to share people giving money because there are people, and we don't want you taking money away from Crooked Tree for this Arts Commission thing.
Who said that?
Several people that work there.
That work there?
Not you, and it's not you. That's all I'll say. But irregardless, so it's fine. If that's not the condition, if they're willing to share donor lists, I think that's a real help for us to send out a notification of what we're doing in the city to garnish more funds. I mean, I think that would help a lot.
John, that's news to me. I don't, Crooked Tree plays well in the sandbox. I think we try to get along, and I mean, I keep referring to them, I'm not, but Angela.
Well, that would really help us with grant, right, with funding, if we had a source to ask for a local art commission, that would really be great, but that's regardless of where we're at. So go back with what you wish for Crooked Tree to be at the table.
That was, yeah, I don't know if you make a motion, or I don't know how that would work, but.
Yeah. One reason I appointed you, the main reason was because you were on the board and you were there. I guess one way would be to you to step down, and somebody that works for Crooked Tree that lives in Petoskey step up and get on the board. That's another option.
When my term's up, that's definitely something that could be reviewed.
That's 3 years.
3 years, so. And I try to add value to it, and I've been here since day one.
That's why I appointed you. I could have appointed anybody. And I came to you and said, Ed, we've had conversations and your support has been very valuable. Your ideas have been very valuable. And I look forward to staying on the board.
We have a good lineup in there now, and frankly, what's the harm of adding one more line? the local arts organization. So you got 6 riparian, or 6, not riparian, you got 6 citizens at large, Kendall, da.
I like, I'm just throwing some out here. I like the idea that it's composed of the citizenry of the city inhabitants. I really do. Oh, sorry, my bad. Supposed to call somebody. I like the fact that it's of our neighbors, you know what I mean? I see you walking your dog, I see you out, I see, you know, John, and, you know, and it's, I like that it's different from the other commissions that, you know, that John has appointed, you know, the 9 or whatever other bodies. And I think that I love Crooked Tree, always have. They've done a lot for my organization too. But a strategic alliance seems to be more of a, and I don't know, you could, that, you know, as far as how that would be constructed or delineated, I don't know, but I mean, definitely want them at the table and on our side for sure. But as far as an actual board position, I don't know. And it's not, I don't know.
Well, the person,
I'm
would-
not sure.
they would be, as John, they have to be in the city limits, correct? So it would be a citizen. I mean, you know, it could be,
But a resident of Petoskey, that's still, you know, of the city limits.
and that's what this person from Crooked Tree would be. There's a number of Crooked Tree employees who live in the city. That
Yeah,
could be,
okay.
that could fulfill that. For example, we have a new gallery director coming on board here shortly. And, you know, that fresh ideas, so anyway. So, yeah, either add a slot for Crooked Tree, the local arts organization, or take a look at in the fall when you have turnover, have the applications come in and.
I'm kind of an anti-disestablishmentarianism guy. And having each organization have a seat kind of rubs me the wrong way. And it has nothing to do with any dynamics with Crooked Tree personally or otherwise. I just, having an organization have a seat, just kind of, I don't know, chafes me a little
Would
bit.
you want Big Water to be a part of it or Crooked Tree?
No,
No, but. There's,
if I was,
you have an organization that represents artists
true,
and you're not being asked to be invited on this board. But you're not representing Big Water.
wait a minute, say that again, sorry.
So what I'm saying is, I'm playing devil's advocate.
No, dude,
If
please.
you ask one organization to be part of the board, you kind of open up the door for the other organizations to say, how come I didn't get asked?
I didn't ask her because of Blue Water.
I understand.
Big Water,
Big Water.
No,
he gets it wrong all the time.
and that's not what I'm inferring, but you as, even if you're not on the board, somebody
Right,
else.
currently I'm not,
You
right.
come on and say, how come this organization is on this board? I represent artists, I should have a seat at the table too. I guess that's the conversation that.
But in my,
Open up.
I understand what you're saying. But in my capacity in this body, I am a private citizen because I live on Lindell. And I'm not representing Big Water, and there's no cross current of anything with my organization with regard to this organization. Or this body.
So let me put this a different way, if you are not, if somebody else is in your seat,
Right,
Dave, you show up to here and say, how come Crooked Tree is being considered in Big Water?
So I don't see a reason to put Big Water on there, on the table.
So, I mean.
They have similar missions in terms of the artists. You know, they both are two organizations that represent artists and promote that kind of stuff.
Okay,
If you're
okay,
gonna
fair
open
enough.
up- If you're gonna open it up for one, our other organizations are gonna say, how come we're not, we.
yeah,
I guess, we're kind of saying the same thing.
yeah, right, different angles, yes, okay, I get what you're saying.
Having tried, you've done.
Oh, I have a disability group, we have a youth group, we have all these people that want
The tribe,
my title.
you know, minorities or whatever.
And all are-
you know,
all
a lot
are-
of other.
Great organizations that we can work with.
We're with.
Yes.
Exactly,
Don't
I'm,
have to have a
that's what I'm
seat at
saying.
the table. Or I have a seat at the table of You know, we've been very open of asking for comments, participation as far as that goes.
Recall earlier, Crooked Tree actually was chartered into, the original document had Crooked Tree on there, representative of Crooked Tree, and then I think it had 3 citizens at large, and then we took Crooked Tree out and then came back with 6 citizens at large, right? Is that the number, I think?
It's 7.
Is it 7? All right,
7 7 citizens.
7 citizens is,
Three by title.
right, okay.
We have Amy from deep downtown, Kendall from Parks and Rec, and Mayor or / Mayor appointed council member.
So I would have, I personally, I don't have any concern, is that if we wait until September, when the positions open up.
I won't promise you, I would put a. I won't promise anybody. We do have a list of some people that have applied for this. Sheila and I talked about this today. We do have people who have applied who did not make this initial cut. We also have people who may apply. And those, we have to talk about not term limits, but participation, because that could take some people out of the picture. So I think if we take care of that piece first, I think it will help roll on some of the rest of this. I would just as soon wait, we have nothing really going with this board new for huge art projects. I would rather wait till September and see where it lies with where we are with people on the board first. And it would give us an opportunity for more discussion and better times.
I agree with you because the art center, even though there's been a big turnover in the staff, there's a lot of new people there.
Right.
They each have a lot going on. And like you said, if there's something that we need from the art center, I'm sure that they'll help us with it.
Or if there's something that we can help with the arts center.
Exactly, it can go both ways.
I see every one of you at their events.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, so that, I don't think they have to be on the committee. They,
And I'm not saying no, I'm not saying
Right.
personally, I'm not saying yes or no right now. I'm saying, let's wait until we get through down the road a little ways here. And let's come back and revisit this as a group. We're fresh, have some new ideas. We started opening this can. Let's come back.
and we have people on the committee who have an art background.
I think the world of Angela and what she's done. I've told her that. in
Yep.
person, You know, and it's not about, it's about the title piece of it as
Yeah.
Pete mentioned. Want to carry on this comment? Just, Angela, would you like to say something?
Oh, no, I'm just listening, but yeah,
Well, no, but I try to make sure people have to show or,
I'm sure your instructions for applying are on the website as far as.
yeah, application.
Yeah.
Anybody that applies, I always sit down and meet with them. Go about where you're from, what's your take on stuff?
So if,
Run their license plates.
if September is when the terms are up, when would you start in August?
With what?
Applications, receiving and reviewing applications?
You could send an application in today. Sarah makes copies, emails me the copy. She keeps them.
Sarah does everything.
Sarah,
Not my meeting, let's focus and get back to that. Remember, we're all live, I don't want it.
and I, and Kendall, we'd all be a mess if it wasn't for Sarah. Okay, she's the glue.
Anchor.
She's the glue.
The anchor.
She's more than the anchor. She's the glue.
She's the glue. She's the hot glue.
Before we talk about wrapping it up, I just want to revisit the location. Is there going to be a contingent going picked or is
You
it?
wanna walk down there?
We will take care of it.
You wanna walk down there right now? You have time? Do you have time?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
I
drive
mean-
because I really have
That's
just,
just-
I have,
But yeah, you can get.
I just
most of
put
it out.
all the off, so I'm okay.
We'd have to look at that.
I gotta get my dog.
Good to see. It's going.
Let's go out and see real quick, look, and let's-
So we're
Oh, we need to.
I had to.
Have we adjourned?